he ended up losing to the Warriors last night. I'd say the formula was pretty simple. It was pretty much the rebounding battle was 50 to 31. Steph Curry at the end of the game pretty much got the switches he wanted and ended up kind of taking advantage on just hitting tough shots. And Tyler Hero obviously wasn't himself last night and had kind of a down shooting night and scoring night in general. It kind of bled into some other things. So I think the formula for losing was pretty clear, and I thought their defense was actually pretty good last night, especially when you look at the two of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, like the things they were able to do, even just in this like the box score. Like usually defensive stuff comes without in the box score. They were doing it in the box score with steals and blocks and everything along those lines. But speaking of Bam, I thought his absolute just in general shot profile was just very good last night. The shots he was getting and the reasons he was getting to it because of the Warriors' specific defensive structure. So I just want to go through and show some of the different ways that he was scoring. And first, speaking of that shot profile, this was a shot profile last night. Like the fact that he only missed 3 shots, but you could see that coming into the game, it was pretty clear where he was the kind of knowing the shots were going to come from because the Warriors defense basically does not allow you to get to the rim a lot. Like last night, they were just not letting anybody get to the rim. And I think that was part of the reason Tyler struggled because usually if he's attacking in the pick and roll, getting him some easy lay-ins and things along those lines, it leads to him getting into a rhythm and kind of scoring in general. But looking at these shots, you can kind of remember where these shots are coming from because I'm going to show there's basically 2 shots that he was shooting in these exact spots. And I think this is something we got to look into, I guess, moving forward because it could be important for him. First one, Caleb Martin obviously hitting Kyle Lowry on the drive. Bam's going to float a little bit. Like I said, they're going to block off the rim. So he's not going to be a hardcore roller in this game. He's pretty much going to be a floater, just trying to get to that push shot, which I think there's mixed emotions on it because it's kind of if you have it going early, it'll probably be there all night. But if you don't have it early, it's kind of a tough shot to get going because it's in that in-between range. But right here, he gets it right in that spot, gets it and just floats it up. And then that's kind of the main look here in these rolls because he's, like I said before, he's not going to be a true lob threat with, like you see right here, the second play, you see the help they're helping over. That's Duncan Robinson in that weak side corner, but they're going to split the difference. And it's actually Strus and Duncan Robinson, but they're going to kind of split the difference there. They're going to make sure you don't get many attempts at the rim. So Jimmy, nice pass inside to Bam. They're both contesting it, but he hits that float shot again. That's shot number 1 that he's going to be trying to get to. The next one, before I get into the rest of the shot profile, going through some of the stuff Bam was doing, I always talk about the post splits that Miami runs. And I just saw this play and I was just pretty much like, how do you guard this? Like that was kind of my takeaway here. When you run Bam in these lineups with like, let's say 4 role players or 4 shooters with Gabe, Duncan, Strus, and Caleb, they're not even going to be in those misdirection play. They basically line up like a formation in football. Like they just line up 4 in a row right here. Nobody's protecting the rim. Like sometimes if you see a spot like this, somebody will back off a little bit, but you can't when there's all these shooters. So what happens right here? Strus just slips it and ends up an easy dunk. Like those are the possessions that I just think are so interesting for this Heat team that they have to just build off of with Bam being a playmaker. If you have a big man playmaker, you have to utilize it because that big man can't just sit under the rim on the opposing team. He has to guard you when you're that playmaker and can't be that help side defender. Back to the shot profile stuff. I talked about the floater, the little push shot inside the lane. This is the other shot. Basically, he is attacking one-on-one and just getting to his mid-range jumper. It's just the face-up game. That was his second shot. He basically knew, like I keep saying, they were going to be he wasn't going to get these easy like right slot drives. So he was going to have to kind of play a little bit more with his handle and step back jumpers and little mid-ranges at the free throw line. Right here, plays into transition. Once again, knowing the game plan, goes into a little in and out right here, throws him off, gets to the elbow and fires over the top. Like those are the shots. When he's hitting shots early, and I say this a ton as well, like usually when you hear rhythm player, you think of shooters. You think of guys that if a 3-point shooter, like let's say Max or even Steph Curry, gets going early in the game, you're like, okay, he's in a rhythm. He's going to be hard to stop. Bam Adebayo being a big man, he is a complete rhythm player. If he's scoring earlier in the game, he's going to probably be scoring late in the game more often than not. So they need to get him going in these type of games or in these type of spots early in games. Right here, another one coming down the floor. Gives it to Gabe. He's going to float once again and get into that push shot yet again. Like that shot was going to be open all night, and he's knocking it down. So they kept going to it and going to it. Back to the face-up now. Gives a quick little jab, baseline jumper. You know he likes that jab and jumper in general, and he hits that. Let's go to another one. Jab, gets into that jumper, hits it. So the funny thing is, going back to this shot profile, you get an idea of not only are the shots similar in terms of the where he's getting them, but the shots are pretty much exactly the same throughout of the type of shots. It's a float shot, a push shot, and it's pretty much a jab and a jumper on the face up. So I like this type of shot profile from Bam. Once again, if he gets going early in games, it's going to be better for him. But just finding his game in that mid-range area, there's going to be defensive plays that are going to allow more attempts at the rim, and that'll only help his attempts and his scoring. But when he's doing this type of stuff, it really helps the Heat's offense in general, as you saw last night.